glad to have you.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the Transition Podcast.
Thank you.
Johnny and Lewis have been raving about you for quite some time and talked to me what a great athlete you were and what an amazing human being you are. Sorry about that. So welcome.
Thank you.
Like we were saying before, I guess this is the new normal for a little bit until we can get through this insane year, and I keep saying, I think through God's grace we're gonna eventually beat this virus, and life will get somewhat back to normal. I cannot wait.
Yeah, amen to that.
I don't know about you, but the mask sometimes is a little bit annoying, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
We gotta wear it and just to be safe and make sure that we don't spread the virus or get it or whatnot. So,
of course. So,
all right, Cam, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where'd you go to school? Where are you from? I know you're an excellent athlete, but we'll get to that later. Tell me a little bit about who you are.
All right, sounds good. Well, my name is Cameron Dobbs. I come from Douglasville, Georgia, a little bit west of Atlanta. I grew up there all my life with my family. I have 2 older siblings and 2 wonderful parents that raised me right, in my opinion.
Yeah, mom and dad are here today.
Yes, mom and dad are actually in the building today.
Yeah.
Supporting me, as always, in everything I do. But I grew up, I went to a Christian school my whole entire life. It was a K-4 through 12, small town, small school in Georgia. But it prepared me for life, and it prepared me for college, and it prepared me for college sports.
Awesome.
So starting when I was about 11 years old, I started following in my sister's footsteps and playing volleyball. And I instantly fell in love. I always wanted to be like her. So doing volleyball and copying what she did was pretty exciting for me as well. But before you know it, I was a pretty highly recruited athlete and played club, played high school, all that kind of stuff. And it brought me to the University of Miami. So that's kind of what brought me here to Florida, here to South Florida, here in Miami. And I've loved it ever since. I've been involved in many, many things. I'm on the executive board of our Student Athlete Advisory Committee here at Miami, at the University of Miami. And then I'm the co-president of our Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Of course, I was here on the volleyball team at Miami, and now I'm a student assistant coach through a long story there, but I'm sure we're going to dive into it here in a second. And yeah, I'm heavily involved in church here at Metro Life Church, and I love serving and giving my time and spreading myself thin, but I love doing it, and I love everything I do. So it's a good time, and I love Miami.
That's awesome. Well, we're glad to have people like you. I have a soft spot for Georgia, and one of my favorite places in the world is a place called Reynolds Plantation.
Yes.
So we go there every 4th of July.
Wow.
And I like to play golf, so I enjoy the golf courses, and I enjoy Lake Oconee, and we have an amazing time. So I've always told my wife that the day that we decide to retire, I will live in Reynolds. So maybe we'll,
Yeah, that's a great place to live. We love Lake Oconee, Reynolds Plantation, all that stuff too.
It's amazing. So you played volleyball. You said you wanted to be like your sister. Talk to me a little bit about your sister. How many siblings do you have?
Yeah, so I have 2 siblings. I'm the baby of the family,
Okay.
and I have an older brother, older sister. My sister's the oldest out of all 3 of us. We are all 3 athletes. My sister played volleyball at Auburn and then went on to be a doctor of pharmacy.
Wow.
My brother played football at Vanderbilt and went on to now be in, he actually, fun fact about him, there's a Disney Plus movie coming out today called Safety about a Clemson football player, and my brother's actually in that movie. So
Really?
my brother's a big-time musician, actor, all that kind of stuff, video producing, everything you see Johnny do, my brother loves to do as well. But yeah, so very, very talented family. Standards are set high in our family for sure, but we live up to it most of the time.
That's amazing. So you guys are all athletes.
Yes.
Was mom or dad an athlete?
My dad also played football at Auburn.
There
He played with Bo Jackson. I always like to brag on him with that
Okay.
fact. He was a safety corner at Auburn and walk on, but he earned his time and he played and he did great and he inspires us all.
That's amazing. Yeah. So Bo Jackson, arguably one of my favorite baseball players of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously he was a football guy. He was a beast of a man.
Yes.
My little cousins actually graduated from the University of Auburn.
Okay. War Eagle.
One walked on to play basketball, and then he decided that kind of came to an end. But he got his CPA. He went to the School of Accounting there.
Yeah.
So, and now he lives in Tampa. So it's a small world sometimes.
Small world.
And now my aunt lives in Huntsville, Alabama.
You're kidding. Okay.
No, my uncle works for Nassau.
Wow.
So
my mom actually grew up in Russellville, Alabama, which isn't too far from Huntsville. Small town, but not too far from Huntsville.
That's amazing. So you end up playing club ball.
Yes.
How was that?
Oh, I loved club. It was incredible. It brought so many opportunities. I had one of the best, in my opinion, teams just as in chemistry. They're some of my best friends to this day. But on top of that, besides just being an incredibly good team as well and having lots of accolades and winning lots of tournaments, we also got to travel and play in Europe and in Brazil, which are two of my highlights of my life, probably. So I loved playing club. I played at A5 in Georgia, which is consistently the top number 1 or number 2 club in the entire nation. So it's already renowned by everyone, but it's a great club, and like I said, provided so many opportunities to me.
That's amazing. Actually, my little girl plays tennis and she dances now, but tennis is a very demanding sport. And I was telling Johnny and some of our friends yesterday that she has her first match tomorrow. So for the last 2 weeks, she's really pretty much been practicing every single day. But so I know the demands of that. Actually, I'm an ex-athlete, and travel ball was big and whatnot. But people don't realize the amount of sacrifice that you put into, even as a kid, that you put into sports to play at programs like the University of Miami and accomplish your dreams and whatnot. And I'm always just trying to teach her, it's going to take hard work and sacrifice from some stuff that you want to do sometimes to be able to get there and achieve those goals. But so you play club ball, you go to high school, you become one of the top recruits at your high school, and you sign at the University of Miami. What was that like?
Oh, incredible. It was, like you said, there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into even just playing club ball. I mean, my days in high school would look like waking up at 6:30 a.m., heading to school, spending 8 hours at school, and then right at 3:15 when the bell rings, I get in the car, my mom helps drive me, and we go up to Alpharetta, which, if you know anything about Georgia, there's a lot of traffic. And driving on 400, we had to drive, like I said, 3:15 as soon as school got out to Alpharetta, up to a 2.5-hour drive sometimes. I'd have practice, and we would get out at 10 p.m. at night, and then I'd drive back to where I live in Douglasville, getting home in between 11 and 12 p.m. every night. And then, of course, having to balance school and being the high-caliber student I was as well, waking up the next morning and do it all again. So when I committed to the University of Miami, it was a big sigh of relief. It was a lot of hard work that paid off, and I was excited beyond measure. I knew I had found my perfect fit, and since being here, it's just kind of emphasized that point.
So talk to me about the recruiting with volleyball. I actually got 2 really good friends of mine who coach at Westminster Christian, which my kids go to school.
Yeah.
And they play volleyball at FIU, and they were great athletes and whatnot. And actually, one of them, her name is Deborah Lopez, and I know that her daughters are like amazing volleyball players and whatnot. But talk to me a little bit about the recruiting process from the volleyball side. I'm a baseball guy. I played Division I baseball. Played a little bit with the White Sox. Is it are kids getting recruited out of tournaments, club ball? Is it educate me a little bit on that, how the whole volleyball process works out.
Of course. So a lot of people, just generalizing people in America, they look at football and kind of see the football side of recruiting and assume that's how it is for everyone, but it's not at all. And I'm sure you can relate to that, just being baseball as well.
Yeah.
So with volleyball, unlike football especially, volleyball starts very, very early in recruiting. So I already had my first scholarship offer by the time I was going into my freshman year of high school. So recruiting starts very, very, very early. And it does, like you said, it does come from tournaments and club mainly. Of course, you may get recruited in high school a little, but it's usually after being first known by coaches through club tournaments.
Got it.
So yeah, it starts very early, and it's a little stressful.
That's becoming more norm. So it's funny you say that, because how old are you, Kim?
I'm 21 now.
You're 21. Okay. No, so it's very normal. So I do see on the baseball side now that kids are committing to universities by the time they're freshmen.
Yes.
By the time they're in 8th grade.
Yep.
And I'm like, it's crazy, because I can only imagine the amount of pressure that parents feel.
Yeah.
When their young kid is, making a huge crucial decision so early on.
Right.
I don't like that. I'll be honest with you. I don't understand how you can put the pressure on a 14, 15-year-old kid, actually child in some cases, to make that type of decision. And especially, you've been blessed where your father was a Division I major athlete, where he maybe the process has changed, but he can relate a lot and what to look for. But when you have parents that don't understand the process, where they have, their daughter may be, playing sports, dancing, whatever, but they don't have that background, and the pressure that they feel to make these decisions really based on the trust of what they're hearing. And I almost feel like I'm a huge fan of college sports. I was just telling my business partner Doug, I was watching highlights of the University of Florida Georgia football game because there was a major hit that game, and I kept watching it. But I'm like, there's nothing like college sports. But I do feel that it's becoming such a business.
Oh, for sure.
It's such a revenue stream for the universities that I don't want it to become like professional sports. And in some weird way, when you're talking about kids being paid to play, which is a whole different topic, I don't know. That evolution to me is a little bit way too advanced for me. I'm a little bit more conservative when it comes to stuff like that. I still like the good old days where kids put on their university, their name and they play with pride and heart. And I don't want kids to lose that, because if there's one thing that I know for a fact is that you can't play the game forever.
Right.
Right? At some point, the game comes to an end. So let's get into, I know that you were one amazing volleyball player at the University of Miami. Big girl, very athletic, but some sort of injury led to ending your time playing the game of volleyball. So I've always said you're either one injury away or life or age, but you can't play the sport forever. But like you said early on, this sport prepared you for life. The sacrifice, the hard work, the character, the integrity, the knowing that it's not about you is what's going to make Cam now blossom in the game of life. So let's talk about how this whole thing started.
Yeah, well, and before I dive into that, I will say, too, that I had a really good advisor here at Miami, Cheryl Jackson, and she always told every student athlete when we came in that, same thing, your sport is not going to last forever. Yes, you may play years of pro, whether it's in any sport, but eventually you're going to stop playing your sport. And so I always knew that in the back of my mind, that, yes, I wanted to play professionally overseas, but of course I was going to have to fall back on something and some career eventually. So I will say I'm thankful for hearing that all my life, because it did have me push hard and other things off the court.
So you had the awareness.
Of course. Now, did I ever think it would actually happen? Not at all. And did I ever think it would happen so soon? Definitely not. So let's get into it now. So basically, like I said, I came here to the University of Miami to play volleyball. My whole journey here at UM has been pretty crazy, to say the least. So I come in my freshman year, fight to have a starting position, go back and forth with one of our other older outside hitters, play some, sit the bench some, have a mixed emotions, but we had an incredible first season there when I was here. Went to the NCAA tournament, ended up losing to Florida in the second round. They ended up being number 2 in the nation. So great season freshman year, one of our historic program history seasons. It was a great year overall, and I was fired up for year 2. So year 2 comes, it's my sophomore season. And early on in September, so we are a fall sport for volleyball.
Yeah.
And so in September 19th, I believe, I had my first concussion. And I was in practice. I was playing back row. I was an outside hitter, playing defense, and a ball ricocheted off of our ceiling. And I went to go chase after it. Another teammate of mine also went to chase after it, and we collided. My head went into her collarbone. Pretty much felt like I just hit a brick wall. But I played. I continued playing. I was a little shaken up, but nothing too bad. I ended up finishing the rest of practice, doing jump testing, going and doing an hour of weights, going to class, and then eventually around maybe 6, 7 p.m., I kind of texted my trainer and was just like, hey, feeling a little off, slight headache, nothing terrible. Wanted to just let her know, keep her in the loop. And then day 2, I wake up, headaches, all the symptoms of a concussion, and I'm out for about 2.5 weeks. Nothing too bad. I mean, obviously it's a concussion, it's pretty tough. But just 2.5 weeks I was out, and then I come back. And this sophomore season was not exactly like our freshman season.
Yeah.
Our skill level wasn't quite there. We weren't meshing quite as much as a team. And so when I came back, after playing outside, I actually skipped this part here, but I was playing outside at the beginning of the season, ended up getting beat out by a freshman, incredible freshman at that, but then started playing a little DS, so only back row, not even hitting, not even what I trained to do all my life to hit. And then I got hurt with my concussion, as I said. Now, when I came back, the team was still struggling. It was a tough year for us. So when I came back, I actually switched positions again. So third position in about 1 month, and I now became a middle hitter. So for all you football fans out here, that's basically like going from a wide receiver to maybe like a defensive lineman, maybe, or a kicker instead, and then coming back as like an offensive lineman. So it's like a pretty crazy switch of positions for me all in a month. And then to play middle, which I've never played in my life. So I survived my first concussion. I was back. I was the starting middle, and it was great from there, I guess. And then spring comes along. So in spring, although we are a fall sport, we play some in spring and just, exhibition matches, things like that. Of course, we're practicing all year round. So spring comes along, and in April, I get another concussion. I'm blocking now as a middle, so I'm blocking, and then I get an elbow to my head from another teammate. Concussion number 2, this one wasn't as severe in terms of symptoms, but it was still a concussion nonetheless.
Had you ever suffered or ever been hit like you did when you were playing club ball, high school? Any contact prior to
No,
this had never happened?
I never had a concussion before. Now, of course, everyone gets hit in the face playing volleyball and, whatever. I did run into bleachers multiple times and things like that, but I never had a actual, diagnosed concussion before.
So I suffered a major concussion at the University of Hawaii.
Oh, goodness.
I was playing left field, and I was running in towards to catch the baseball, but the wind kept drifting the ball, and I made the catch. Actually, Lewis laughs about. So my business partner Lewis Catatua was a pitcher playing with me in college. I made the catch of my life. The problem was that I stayed there, so I made a diving catch against a wall, and I hit my head, and I literally stayed there. I was off for 8 hours.
Oh my goodness.
And we were playing the University of Miami. We were ranked, I think back then we were 21st in the country. Miami was number 1 or number 2. Long story short, we were playing them, I think it was the following Friday. And I remember my trainer telling me, you probably can't play. I'm like, dude, I cannot miss this game. This is a huge game. Mm-hmm. I ended up having a great game, but I do know I did have a concussion.
Yeah.
But I never had the headaches. And they let me leave the hospital camp because I was able to recall what happened.
Yeah.
So when I woke up and I was like, oh my God, it's the weirdest thing in the world.
That's crazy.
But I was repeating the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, I had never been knocked unconscious or anything from mine before, which thank God to that. But so that was my second concussion.
Okay.
And then following that, the next September, so this is now almost a year since my first one, I have my third concussion. Oh. And this one I was blocking in a game. It was our very first tournament of our preseason. So first thing of the year, excited to go into my junior season. And then I'm blocking. I make a pretty sick move, if I must say, down to the right side hitter. And as good of a move it was, my arms were wide and the ball just went straight through my arms, hit me in the forehead. And, I've been hit millions and millions of times in the head, playing volleyball, defending, whatever it may be. And it's funny because honestly, this hit didn't even hurt. Yes, it's a hard hit, of course. I don't know, 60 plus miles per hour. But
is that how fast a volleyball's going?
At least, yeah.
Wow.
And
I didn't know that.
It hits me in the head. And the volleyballs are soft relatively. So it hits me in the head and bounces off my head and hits our ceiling. So pretty hard and pretty fast hit. Goes up and hits the ceiling and I come down and I'm immediately just kind of foggy. No headaches or anything. Like I said, it didn't hurt, but I knew I was a little out of it. And that was the first set of the game. Finished playing the rest of the match. I told my trainer, I was like, just letting you know, I'm feeling a little off, but I'm okay. I'm good. I can continue playing. And so finished the match. Sitting on the sideline, though, I remember we had struggled with a lot of injuries already that season. Even though it was the first tournament of the season, we already had like 5 girls out with injuries. And I remember sitting on the bench in a timeout and thinking, oh my goodness, like I'm next. Like I'm the next person to get hurt. And it was crazy because we already had, basically every time we were playing, someone was getting hurt. And it was ACL, dislocated shoulder, like big injuries too. So I go the rest of the night. We had a thing at my coach's house. My parents were actually here again.
Wow.
I took them to the airport, and then I woke up the next morning and headaches on headaches. I remember going into my trainer's office the next day and literally just looking at her and being like, I don't want to do this again. And I just remember crying, and I was like, I'm sick and tired of having now 3 concussions in 1 year. And I didn't know what was to come. I was confused. I was uncertain of what the future may look like for me, even on day 1 of really feeling this concussion. So that's pretty much sums up just how I was getting hurt, but those 3 concussions in a year, and it was tough. And of course, looking through it, I remember the weeks to come, and it was maybe I'll get to travel next week. Yeah. Maybe I'll get to start doing extra reps next week. Oh, I'm having a day where I'm feeling a little bit better. Maybe tomorrow will be good, and then tomorrow being terrible. And then it was cognitive therapy, vestibular therapy, regular therapy just to keep me sane. I was battling anxiety, depression. I had every symptom known to man for concussions. So really? Headaches, nausea, literally everything.
So you mentioned 2 key words there. Maybe you don't know this, but the birth of this podcast was based on because when I stopped playing baseball, I started to suffer from severe panic attacks and anxiety attacks, which led to some sort of small, mild depression. But because did you start feeling anxious and all that after you stopped playing? Or do you think it was the concussions that were making you feel that way?
So it's tough. It's definitely because of the concussion, but of course it kind of snowballs into effect. So as I'm going through my concussion, as I'm healing, I'll go and say this, it took me from about September to January to heal. And even now I still have some slight effects and things like that I go through, but nothing terrible anymore.
Got it.
So it took me about 5 months to completely heal. And as I was going through it, though, like I said, I would go through 1 week and hope the next week I'd travel. I'd go through another week and hope, okay, maybe the next week I'll travel. Not even playing yet, but just hoping I'd be able to travel, hoping
just
I'd
make
be able
the roster,
to
be in a team.
Exactly. And it never happened. I never traveled for a single preseason game, never traveled for a single ACC match that whole entire year. I couldn't be in the gym because of the lights and the noise. I had to walk around with headphones, with earplugs, with sunglasses for 5 months. I couldn't go to class. I basically laid in my bed all day with the lights off, and that's all I could do. I couldn't read, couldn't look at my phone, couldn't watch TV. This wasn't a chill, Netflix time or anything. This was being pretty miserable, feeling isolated, and a very, very tough time. So depression definitely came through that, and then just also battling at the same time, will I ever heal, first off, because I did not see a light at the end of the tunnel as I was going through this. And then will I ever get to play my sport again? I actually was following a teammate who had just medically retired from concussions the year before me. So I knew in the back of my mind, this may be it for me. And that was, every single day that was going through my mind, will I ever play again? Will I ever play again? And the answer was no. I never ended up stepping back on the court.
Was it an identity crisis in some way, Cam?
Yeah. I've talked about this to a lot of people, and for my entire life, I'm a Christian. My faith is very important to me, and I always say, I'm a child of God. I'm a child of God. I'm a child of God. But when you lose your sport, when you can't lead the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, as I'm the president of it, when I can't serve in SAC, as I'm on the executive board of that committee, when I can't go to class, when I can't do UMTV, when I can't do all this stuff that's on my resume and that is a part of me and that I'm a part of, you really just have to rely on your faith. That's truly, you have to step back and say, no, I really am a child of God, and if I lose all this stuff, I have that to stand on. And so, yes, it for sure was an identity crisis, but I think it helps me in the long run to see that I do not define who I am. My play on the court, my play on the classroom, that doesn't define me. My identity in Christ really defines me, bottom line.
and that's amazing. I haven't had a lot of female athletes on the podcast, just for whatever reasons, and it happens on your end as well. You know, where I've seen it so often in athletes on, you know, in football and baseball and basketball and whatnot, and all major sports, and you give your whole life for this sport. You sacrifice a lot, and you do it because you love it too. It's not like you're sacrificing and you're mad about it,
right?
But you give up a lot, and there's sometimes where you're like, man, you know what? I wish I can be here or I can be there, but I can't because I got practice or I got to go to bed early. And when that uniform is ripped off of you, right, and you can no longer feel that adrenaline, the butterflies, the willingness to compete and give to a game that you love so much, it has a major effect on people's psyche and psychology, on athletes. And I think it's normal. I think it's in some weird way, it would not be normal if you didn't care that much. I think the greatest people at whatever it is that they do, they just really care about it. But what I think athletes make the mistake or not the mistake, but when you identify and your attachment is that. And then you realize, you know what? No, I am a child of God, and I do have a purpose, and this just happens to be one of the gifts that God gave me.
Yeah.
But I can tell you by looking at you, your energy, your aura, you have a long and beautiful life ahead of you, and you're going to be able to share these experiences that you got at a young age, and now be one amazing coach one day, be one amazing mother one day, be one amazing wife, and be able to look at young female athletes, and you're going to see through them because you've been through it, right? Like I can, because I've been through anxiety, I can recognize it in anybody. I just know, right? And sometimes when you go through that painful process, it's not in vain. There's a purpose sometimes, and I know that it sucks.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
You're like, why am I going through this? But when you get over it, it's like it's an accomplishment. You're like, you know what? Now I'm going to serve and I'm going to give back. And I think that, you know, from the outside looking in, it's almost like, you know, God has another purpose for you, and you can still be around the game, and you know, to go on to your business career and wherever life takes you. But it just seems to me like the game of volleyball gave you so much, and it was preparing you for life at a very young age. You're only 21 years old. You're just getting your feet wet, right? So are you graduated? Are you still in school?
So volleyball, continuing that there, volleyball has given me a lot of opportunities, and it's still giving me opportunities. So I ended up graduating undergrad in 3 years. So I finished my school in my junior season, and then now I'm pursuing my grad. So I'm now in grad school at Miami. I'm getting my master's in journalism. I graduated in broadcast journalism.
All right.
Yeah. So you can probably tell I like talking.
It's a hot topic nowadays.
It is a hot topic.
It is a hot topic.
And I'll be talking about sports and journalism. So
Awesome.
I'm still sticking around what I love. And I'm also coaching for the Canes now. So I haven't left the team completely. They're not getting rid of me yet. I'm still hanging out with them. I'm still coaching every day. And also just watching, too, my journey with volleyball, how it's really prepared me every step of the way, because I played outside at the University of Miami. I played DS at the University of Miami. And then I played middle at UM. So every single step of the way, I can now really coach almost every position at Miami. I know our system through and through, and I know it from many aspects. So that's really helped my coaching career so far as well. And then, like I said, I'm just doing my master's program at the same time, which again is kind of from volleyball because they're helping pay for it all.
So is coaching still maybe something you're going to want to pursue, maybe at the collegiate level, at the professional level, at the high school level, or you're 100% all in on going into journalism?
I am 100% all in on going with broadcast journalism. You know, in the next year here after I graduate officially next December from grad school, I plan on starting out with maybe ACC, SEC Network, building my way up to ESPN as a sideline reporter for college football.
I want to see you on ESPN.
Yes, of course. in-studio host, basically.
I can see you on ESPN. That'll happen.
I mean, if you know Maria Taylor, she's pretty much my idol, my role model.
Okay.
And so anything she does, I want to do. So that's what I plan on doing. But maybe, down the road when I'm a little older, maybe have a family of my own, maybe some coaching, maybe some club coaching, high school coaching, maybe in line for me. But right now, I'm definitely just focused on going to ESPN.
Well, that's amazing. Well, I want you to know you have an amazing future ahead of you.
Thank you.
You do. So I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
Where's Cam in 10 years?
In 10 years?
Where do you see yourself?
Definitely at ESPN. I see myself at ESPN. I see myself married, probably have a couple of kids by then, living maybe back here in Miami because I love it so much here.
Okay.
I see myself being a speaker, maybe going to schools, maybe talking to FCA events, talking to student athletes about mental health. Since going through everything I've been through with concussions.
If you ever need anybody for that, consider me a resource.
All right. I love that. Yeah. Since going through all that with concussions, I've really advocated for it, which honestly, if you asked me a year ago what I thought about mental health, I blew it off. I didn't really think it was legit, and now everything's changed.
I can tell you that mental health is the most underrated challenge that athletes face and people in society face. I work with a mental strength coach.
Yeah.
Who's very well respected, and I'll share his name. His name is Lucas Jaden, and he wrote a book called Winning in the Dark. I want you to read it.
I will.
Okay, he's phenomenal. He works with amazing athletes, with head coaches. Works with the Dodgers now, and he is a huge advocate for athletes and mental health and psychology and whatnot. And I would love to connect you guys because I think that there's a lot of synergy there.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy that you're willing to share your story and talk about mental health because it's important. Athletes are making, without them realizing this, if you can focus on your mind and your brain, number one, and then your body, number two, you're going to be a much better athlete. I think we emphasize so much about whatever skill set is that you're working on and not realize how important it is to work on your mind, being able to quiet your mind, being able to focus, being able to play from a place of peace.
Yeah.
I saw a documentary with Wayne Gretzky, and he talked about he said his father was taking him to a small town. So his town was playing in another town. And he was saying, you're going to see a bunch of these kids over here, and this other team that we're going to play, they're going to be very good. They're very structured. And we're going to be a lot more loose. But he said those kids won't have one pro athlete. We'll have several pro athletes. And I go back to the word peace, and it's because he was saying an athlete is like an artist. Whenever you see an athlete at his best, he's playing from a place of peace, and everything slows down. And it all starts in the mind. And if you watch Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, the best hitters in baseball and any sport, volleyball players, something slows down. And I think it's your ability, your breathing, your being able to take the moment and be in that moment. And I think that all applies to mental health.
Yeah.
And not creating fears and all that other stuff. But
Yeah.
I really hope that you advocate for that, and I would love to be a resource however I could for you. But
Of course.
you have an amazing future, Cam.
Thank you. And I want to go off one thing you said there. You talked about, of course, playing with peace and playing in the moment and things like that as well. One of the best pieces of advice, my mom actually has always reminded me of it, and every single thing I do, and it's play where your feet are. And so whether I'm on the sideline, I'm going to be the best cheerleader on the sideline. You better know that. If I am on the court, I'm going to be the best teammate and the best player on the court. If I'm going to be on the sideline now as a coach, I'm going to be the best coach and the best teammate as well to my teammates. If I'm going to be in studio, I'm going to be the best in studio. So no matter what your role is, I've always just been reminded, play where your feet are. You know, whether it's good or bad, play where your feet are.
I like
Do
that.
your role.
I'm writing that down.
Yes. It's something I've lived by.
Mom, you taught me something. Play where your feet are at. My kids tomorrow in baseball practice are going to hear that from me.
Yes. It's so good. And it can really relate to anything. It can relate to obviously sports, but really any role in life. Any role you're in life, play where your feet are. You know, you may start small, play where your feet are. It's going to pay off one day.
I have a good buddy of mine that lives in Georgia. And before we built this company, you know what he told me? Big things come from small beginnings.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you again for your time. And I look forward to seeing you grow in life, and we'll be in contact.
And on ESPN one day.
Oh, you better believe it. I'll get my daughter Olivia to come meet you.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. That's it.